So for my philosophy presentation, I chose to do ethics in architecture. This interested me just because I've always been into architecture since I was a little kid. I would always draw up floor plans and dream homes every single day. And I'm actually a architect major at Judson now, so this is something that I've worked at 2 firms at before and I'll be going into in the future. And then throughout the philosophy course this past semester, ethics was just something that grabbed my attention, and I just thought it was really interesting in how your morals and ethics can play a role into the job that you're going into in the future. So I really just wanted to dive deeper into this and learn more about it through the presentation and essay. Ethics aids us in the decision-making process. The framework that ethics gives to our lives helps us to make decisions that cause positive impacts on others or even negative impacts. Having good ethics is an important part of almost any job where you're doing a service for someone, or even a job where you aren't doing a service. It's still important that you keep good ethics and are held to a high standard. Architecture is a very personal service. Architects are tasked with designing a building or home for people to inhabit and spend their time in. There are a lot of steps and qualifications to become an architect, and this is because they oversee so many important choices that can impact the client and the job greatly. When ethics or morals are in question during the design process, it's not normally the construction workers or the building owner that are put to question, it's typically the architect. And this is why they're held to a higher standard, because they hold so much power, and how they choose to use it is up to them and their belief system and their morals. There are countless decisions the architect needs to make during the design process that can either help or hurt their client. According to Michael Crosby, we're always looking for ways to accommodate differences, and that's an important part of ethics, understanding how our actions impact other people, how we think about problems and arrive at solutions that do little or no harm. That's typically the goal when designing. The architect's design mind brings a particular approach to ethics, and the title reflects that. So ethics should be heavily involved in the decisions architects make during the design process through budgets, satisfaction, safety, and health. Architects have a huge responsibility to do what's best for their client when dealing with the budget. The budget is one of the most important things when working on architectural projects because everything you decide must fit in this planned range. According to Michael Crosby, ethics is also about understanding how others view the world and how our actions affect the lives and welfare of others. The role of professionals is to look after the greater good. This stands for not only designing to keep costs of products low, but also making sure you are designing them reasonably. For example, bad budgeting morals can lead to overspending the client's money and possibly even hiding it from them. Even if a client gives an unlimited budget, designing too much with the given money could end up hurting the community even more. According to Michael Crosby, a client with an unlimited budget is a great opportunity for architects who are always rubbing up next to money and power, and that's one reason it isn't much discussed. There are all kinds of negative impacts. You end up building too much with the materials that are resource intensive and raising land values that leads to gentrification. Sometimes too much money can lead to bad ethics just as much as low money can. Making sure the client is satisfied with the design and the result is directly reliant on the architect having beliefs that keep in mind the good of others or the community. According to Eli Saltz, understanding that architecture is a professional service means that architects must leave their own beliefs and preferences at the client's front door. In the context of professional service, what the architect wants doesn't matter. Only providing clients with the facilities that meets their needs, goals, and beliefs matters. Architects need to put aside their own wants and preferences to please their client. These biases can sometimes be hard as an architect because they are the professional and they think they always know what's best when there are conflicting ideas especially. In addition to pleasing the client, the architect should also always acquire approval and agreement with the client when making big decisions or changes in the design. Ethics plays a huge role in this because it impacts a person's decision-making skills. An architect with corrupt ethics and morals could lie to their client or hide things without telling them the full truth or letting them be a part of the decision-making process. The architect not only has the responsibility to make the client satisfied, but also the community they are designing in. With a good belief system and good intentions, the community will thrive. The architect has a duty to ensure the inhabitants of the design will be safe and healthy in the space. There are a lot of opportunities for an architect to take advantage of their client in this area. There are several ways safety could be compromised for things such as cheaper or easier designs, but the safety of the occupants should always come first. Thinking of the health and safety of the future inhabitants falls in line with community-minded ethical codes because it is putting others above yourself and your own thoughts and wants. Health and safety could be seriously compromised if an architect is too prideful to ask an engineer or another specialist for help. According to Eli Saltz, architects must understand and honor the limits of their knowledge. There is no shame in asking a specialist for help if the client knows when it's happening. As along to not being afraid to ask, they should also let the client know who they're going to ask and why. Putting more emphasis on ensuring that a design is safe over an architect's ego getting bruised is an important thing to keep in mind. Architects have the obligation to not only protect the client and the community, but also the earth. Using more sustainable materials and practices become more common with good ethics. According to Christine Murray, the impacts of specifying green is huge. 20% of a building's carbon emission can be prevented by changing to less wasteful, more recycled materials. According to UK waste charity WRAP, a further 15% can be saved by designing lean in terms of structure and efficiency for less wastage of materials, such as reducing offcuts. Further carbon reduction can be found in reducing transport and the use of construction vehicles and generators, responsible for 14.5% of the most dangerous fine particles in the air around us. By using methods such as prefabrication and off-site construction, this can help the building be more sustainable for the future and help the environment more. There are things that architects can morally choose to do to save our planet and reduce the carbon footprint of the building. There are many ways an architect can be ethical towards a client during the design process, but they are not just limited to these things. According to Cornelius Du Bois, the architect is charged with acting ethically throughout the course of a project. Whether interacting with clients, the public, colleagues, or employees, we must look to the final result of the architect's work and passion, the building or space or composition, to understand the ethical tensions posed by each project and how the architect has walked the walk. Only by experiencing the design and how it impacts the world of the owners, users, and the public can we judge how each architect has met this challenge. Also, according to Owen Hopkins, the question now is how to keep the debate moving forward and ensure that the architects are equipped to make ethical judgments that they feel they can defend and hold to. There is usually no right answer to an ethical dilemma, but there are certainly right ways of dealing with them. So ethics can also be considered in the workplace when cooperating with other employees or even specialists such as engineers. There is a moral code in the business world to not take advantage of others. This especially relates to Christian workplaces. Christians are held to a standard of having good ethics and caring for others in day-to-day life. Having good morals can improve the relationship between the architect and client and the work environment overall. It is an expectation that they will place the client's thoughts above theirs in the areas of budget, satisfaction, safety, and health. That's it for my presentation. Throughout this, I learned a lot about ethics in architecture and how an architect can do that, and I hope to carry that with me in the future and in my workplaces. Thank you.